Today, we are getting into the nitty-gritty of the technology of podcasting. If you've Googled starting a podcast, and I know you probably have, you've gotten a gazillion recommendations on how to do it and what to get. You can go extremely frugal with your phone in the closet, or you can spend thousands of dollars on high-quality equipment in a sound booth. What are you going to do? Today, I've got you covered with all those details, so stay tuned. Welcome to the Women's Agency Podcast, where we talk business, life, and empowered women. The show is brought to you by the Women's Agency, amplifying women's voices. Hey there, welcome back. This is part 2 of getting started in podcasting, and today we've got you covered with all the technology. I'm your host, Arlia Hoffman, and my mission is to help you amplify your voice and succeed on your own terms. Today we're talking podcast and specifically the back end side of the show, right? All the technology to help get your voice out into the world. This show and the last show are taken directly from my Easy Start Guide available at thewomens'agency.com. So head over there to grab yours, or you can find the link in the show notes. The last time we covered some of the questions to consider to know if starting a podcast is right for you and the decisions you need to make to structure it and set yourself up for success, like knowing what you'll be talking about, who you're talking to, if you're going to have guests, to name a few. So if you haven't heard that episode, go check it out. That probably comes first. But if you're in the mood for technology today, here we go. All right, let's talk equipment. To get started, I'm going to say you need a reliable laptop, a pair of earbuds or headphones, and a microphone. Okay, yeah, you do. But really, if you've got a high quality smartphone, like a higher end Android or an iPhone, you can make a good podcast happen. Because you do have to have a good recording. So that's the first piece. Your raw recording does have to be fairly good quality. And you can also do some tricks on the back end to make it sound even better. It wouldn't hurt to do a couple of episodes this way to get the sense of how this is going to roll for you. And yes, you can totally do it in your closet. I did it in my closet for the first, 6 months maybe. And it works beautifully because it's so well dampened. And the reason it works well is because sound travels and bounces off of things. And the reason people sound professional on the air is because the sound is not bouncing anywhere. It's staying right here. And that's the reason for soundproof booths, studios, blankets on the wall, and the reason your closet works so well. There have been a lot of fascinating and funny setups for people. I've seen pictures of people who put a blanket over their head. They surround themselves with pillows. I mean, you could build yourself a fort. Personally, I get a little claustrophobic and hot, okay? But it can work. But you have to deaden the sound and have a decent microphone to talk into, whether it's your phone or an actual microphone, which we will get to later. Here's my next point, and I will die on this hill. Do not use Bluetooth earbuds like your AirPods or any other. Absolutely do not use them. They screw up your sound and they might interrupt your sound. They might interrupt your voice. For instance, I was asking someone to do a voiceover for me. She's an amateur. She doesn't have a studio, but she had a good voice and she was coachable. So I said, take your phone, speak into it, hold it about 6 to 8 inches from your mouth. Just get your mouth in a direct line and turn on your voice recorder and start talking. Seriously, you will get good audio. Do not use Bluetooth earbuds. I know you paid a lot of money for them, but they will not create good sound. Okay. For the budget setup, you've got your phone. You are talking directly into your phone, about 6 to 8 inches from your mouth. You are in a padded room, not a padded cell, a padded room. You have to have a room where the noise won't travel. You also have to have a quiet environment. I live in a house with cats and dogs, and I know the struggle is real. I have a dog that barks at people, and I have a dog that barks at dogs. They've got all our bases covered. And it's always a miracle when there's a little pocket of time with nobody barking. Pick your time of day or a room where you can be secluded and make sure that there are no outside noises. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but do your best to not. That just is completely distracting for a podcast. Okay. If you are ready for some real equipment, I'm not going to tell you what to choose. I have a couple of different mics. I do not have the really expensive ones. I picked one expensive one, which is a Rode Procaster. It's not even the most popular one, but I like it. It works for me. If you go into the $100 range, you can get some good mics. You can go all the way up to thousands of dollars, and you probably don't need to. If there's a way for you to go test mics somewhere, that would be a great idea because you will be able to hear the difference. It does not have to be a fancy mic. And by fancy, I mean the way it plugs into something. If you've got the big round plugs, those are called XLR, those require a board, a mixing board. A USB mic would plug into your USB ports on your computer. You can use a USB mic, no problem, but do get a quality mic. You're going to want to have a stand for it. You're not going to be holding it. You need a stand. You need a stand that won't move, but that is flexible, right? So you get it in the position where you need it. So if you need to read notes or talk with your hands like I do, your hands are free. Then you need to have a way to record it. So if you are on a board, that's a whole ball of wax we're not going to get into today, but you can use your board. Or you can use your laptop, or you can use both. I record 2 copies of every show, one on the board and one on my laptop. That's an absolute best practice that I don't compromise on because you just never know what might happen. Hopefully you've got 2 copies. You can just keep one as backup if you need it, and pick one that you use primary. Okay, once you've recorded your episodes, you're going to need a platform to share them with the world. There are so many platforms available. Do your homework. Some of them are changing all the time. Some of the best ones are Libsyn and Buzzsprout. And those are just 2 I can think of. You want one that's been around a while, that gets a lot of good reviews. Take the time to explore and choose the one that best fits your needs and your budget. They don't have to be expensive. But fair warning, any platform that is free will likely have some sort of clause in their terms and conditions that gives them access and rights to your content. You want to be aware of that and read all of that before you make your decision. When you pick a platform, you're going to have to come to it with some of your pieces decided. You're going to need your name, your cover art, and your description. Choose a catchy name that reflects your brand and your target audience. And then you design cover art. There's a specific size that you need, and you want it to be really eye-catching. And then you're going to have to write a description to really tell people what your podcast is about and make them want to tune in. If you're considering adding music, there are plenty of royalty-free music websites where you can find the perfect soundtrack for your episodes. You want to be sure that what kind of is your vibe and the vibe of the show that works with the theme of the podcast. And of course, you've got to make sure you are buying the right music license and respecting copyright laws, all that good stuff. For my podcast, I tend to actually pick music that suits my personality because I have to listen to it every single time, right? For this show, that's why it's got like an upbeat, jazzy feel, because that's what I like. And that's what kind of gets me pumped up for my show. You've got your platform, you have your name, your podcast art, your description, and your music. Now let's talk content. Hopefully you've already decided how often you want to publish, and you're going to start planning your content accordingly. Regardless of when you release, you can do it once a week, every 2 weeks, once a month, every day if you'd like. You've just got to be consistent. People will come to rely on you for that episode that's coming. And when you drop off, you might lose listeners. Once you've recorded an episode, here's my little technical nugget for you. My little technical gift for you. You ready? If you make a mistake, snap your fingers. I'm not going to do it on the air. But snap your fingers, because when you look back at your podcast, you will easily be able to see the places where the snaps are and you know where to edit. I didn't make that up. I got it from somebody else, but it works beautifully for me. So you record your show. If you have made mistakes, you've snapped, and you can find them easily, edit them out. You finish your audio file. You do some post-production if you know how to do that. You upload it to your platform with your cover art. Write some show notes. We didn't talk about show notes. Let's talk about show notes. Show notes are the description that go with the show. For this show, I will write a description of what I talked about. I will put in a link to the Easy Start Guide. I will put in a little description about who I am, what I do, what the women's agency is, and all those links so that people can find you. Boom. That's it. Some shows don't even have show notes, so you don't have to do that. But if you have any sort of business or informational podcast, it's going to probably be useful, right? You can publish whenever you want to. Middle of the night, first thing in the morning, middle of the day. There are some best practices based on market research about when you publish. Last time I checked, the best time to publish was usually like Tuesday or Wednesday, first thing in the morning, like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. That doesn't mean you have to be up at 6 o'clock to push the publish button. You can schedule it. Now, if you're feeling overwhelmed, I understand. Don't worry about it. You take this one step at a time, and the Women's Agency is always here to answer your questions or help you if you get stuck. You've got this guide as your cheat sheet, and there are communities online you can join to ask your questions and get some answers and find out the way other people are doing it. Remember, you're not alone. Whether it's me or anybody else or your friends at work or the barista at the coffee shop, other people have podcasts. They have opinions. They have ideas about what's worked for them. There are always good resources available. My advice to you is just take the plunge. Just try it. What's the acronym for fail? First attempt in learning. The worst that is going to happen is you'll learn something. There's a lot more that we could cover, but this is a good way to get you started. I am here for you if you have questions. You can email me at arlia@thewomens'agency.com. That's ARLIA at thewomens'agency.com. I am happy to answer your questions. So that's it for me today. Remember, don't be afraid to take the plunge and play with it and see how it goes. Thank you all for listening. We will see you here again next time on the Women's Agency Podcast. Thanks for joining us. This program is brought to you by the Women's Agency, a full-service podcast production and coaching firm in Atlanta, Georgia. Visit thewomens'agency.com for more.